Before I throw it open to my colleagues here, can I ask you perhaps to set the scene for us, Jason? A book, it's based on a book, but I don't know, I haven't read the book. If I read the book, would I recognise it in the film?
Yes and no. I mean, look, the book is about a man who fires people for a living, and it's about a man who obsessively collects air miles, but if I had directed the book exactly as it was, these two lovely ladies next to me would not be here because their characters are not in the book.
Well, so that's a considerable difference. But then, so it's source material, but you don't know to fly with it, as it were, to take it beyond whatever's on the page.
I mean, look, the way I use source material is I kind of see it as a toolbox. Usually there's a story that I want to tell, and I just feel I'm looking for the right words, and I'll read a book or I'll read an article, and suddenly it'll just be the language that I've been looking for to say something that I've been meaning to say, or ask something that I've been meaning to ask. And at that point, it just becomes a toolbox of ideas that I can either follow literally, or sometimes I take someone's dialogue and give it to someone else, or in this case, I really took a main character who I liked his occupation, I liked his life philosophy, and from there I built a plot around to, ask the questions that I wanted to ask.
Just before I ask for questions, there is a mobile microphone, so if you would raise your hand if you want to ask a question, then the person with the mic can come and deal with you, okay?
Because otherwise we would never hear you. It's just way too big a room and there's way too many people here.
I think maybe you can project as well, so I don't think we're constricted, if you like, by the microphone. Can I ask the two actresses then? I mean, for me it's a joyful script to listen to, and for you it must have been a pleasure to read, but I mean, how did you assess your characters when you first read them? I mean, let's start with you, Vera. I mean, Alex is a kind of similarly sort of free-spirited character, but of course with these certain hidden depths, which we discover later.
Yeah, and I didn't have the luxury of reading the script without knowing what happens in the end. So I had preconceived ideas, and it was challenging, to play a woman who is very much like a man, and oftentimes I think when a woman behaves this way, it can be interpreted as it was difficult for me to it was a fine line I found to tread, that to have the softness and yet sort of take control of her sexuality and unapologetically make demands that usually you see men making in scripts. And I really like the male perspective on heartbreak that I hadn't read.
And for you, Anna, I mean, your character is in a sense more explained from the word go. We discover a bit more about her and about her background and so on. And what did particularly appeal to you about it?
Well, first it's that sort of rare thing. This girl who's so intelligent and complicated, and her character does not revolve around a romantic storyline, and that was sort of enough to make it fascinating in itself, because it just doesn't happen. You don't read scripts like that, and I loved. I guess I am normally so timid in real life that I'm really excited by characters who get to kind of tell people off, and telling off George Clooney was pretty awesome.
Only because I'm sure the question may be asked, but can I just, as he's almost like a spectre at his feast, the third crucial character in this acting saga, of course, is Mr. C, who's not actually with us. Now, I did read that you actually wrote the role with him in mind. Is that right, Jason?
Yeah, I wrote the role with him in mind, and with Vera and Anna in mind as well.
Can you explain why you wrote? Well, it might come out why you wrote with these two in mind, but particularly say start off with Clooney.
Well, it's easier for me to write when I know who I'm actually writing for, and that's often how I kind of identify the voice of a character. I had met Vera before and seen many of her films, and I knew kind of the things that she was able to do that no other actress is capable of doing, and it was because she's able to walk that very fine line of being aggressive and feminine at the same time that I was able to write Alex the way I did. It was because I saw Anna in Rocket Science and knew the kind of sparkling brilliance of her mind and how fast she is, that I was able to write Natalie the way I did. And look, if you're going to make a movie about a guy who fires people for a living and you still want to like him, that actor better be damn charming. And I don't think there's a more charming actor alive than George Clooney. I was just very lucky he said yes.
Well, I was wondering, what happens if you'd written it with him in mind and you said no? I mean, do you then go to a Clooney clone?
I don't think there is such a thing. No, I would have probably just ended my career right there and then. The story is actually kind of funny. I had been writing it for 6 years, and I told his agent that, look, I'm about a week away or a month away from finishing this screenplay, but in the middle of that, I'm going to Italy on vacation with my wife. And he said, well, if you're going to be in Italy, you should just go see him. I said, that sounds like an awful idea. I don't want to go see him if he hates my screenplay. And he's like, no, just go. He'll love to see it. I said, well, look, I'll send him the screenplay, and if he enjoys it, then certainly, I'll drop by. So I get to Italy, and I call his agent up. I said, did he like it? He said, yeah, go see him. Well, did he like the screenplay? Just look, here's the address. We drive there and get to his house in Como, and one of the first things he asked me is, so what are you working on these days? I said, there's a screenplay, it's called Up in the Air. He said, oh, I gotta find it. I gotta read that. And for 2 days, my wife and I stayed at his home, and I was just trying to prove that I was a man to George Clooney. I played basketball with him. I hadn't done that since 8th grade. I never drink. I tried drinking with George Clooney. He opened 4 bottles of wine between the 3 of us over an evening. I don't know how I didn't die of alcohol poisoning. And finally, about the end of the second day, he disappeared for a while, and out of nowhere he walked into our room and he said, I just read it. It's great. I'm in. And those are words that I feel changed my life, and it'll be one of the greatest moments I'll ever remember from my career.